Good morning. This is Just Listen, hosted by George Goodman. Welcome to the podcast. If you've noticed recently, I make the live podcast whenever I can. If at some point I get more people following as I'm making the podcast, then I will set a time at that point. And I think that the content is still good enough that, and you can also leave me comments, etc. So today, today is June 12th, 2026. So I want to start with um, a couple of things. So, in case you were wondering, haven't you ever wondered what in Illinois how we are generating revenue? Now, I've told you that they've tried to do a millionaire's tax, and the Illinois legislature seems to be focused on making people in the state pay more money if you're working. Now, do we have other sources? Yes. All right. So the state of Illinois generates billions of dollars annually from tourism and slot machines and video gaming terminals. Now, I told you that Illinois has nuclear power plants, the first or second most in the country. We do not directly sell energy. Why aren't we selling energy? That makes no sense. Canada sells it to California and also to New York City. We could be generating billions of dollars from that. But currently, from slot machines and video gaming a year, we make $1.04 billion. So the video gaming alone, and that's the video game machines that people play in the sports bars and restaurants, stuff like that, 921 million. And then in case you didn't know, the revenue from that generates for the local municipalities 160 million. So we also have sports betting. When factoring sports and traditional casino tables, so they make in Illinois $1.72 billion. Okay, so the only one that the state of Illinois is not taking advantage of is the nuclear power, and we could be generating billions of dollars in the state. And also, why is our electricity so high if we have that capacity? That's something to ask your elected officials. We generate 4.7 billion in tourism, which is going to change soon because of what's happening with the bears. I tied those two together, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So we generate 4.7 billion in combined state and local tax revenue. Now, in this part of the state, so in Collinsville and in O'Fallon, they had these sports plexes where people come in and they do tournaments, softball, baseball, etc. And as a matter of fact, O'Fallon is expanding. These are great ideas because they generate income for the area, and then taxpayers should get a break at that point. I'm not sure if they are or not. So, and then I mentioned the nuclear power plants. I'm going to do a separate program about that because I want to do a deep dive about that and why. I know why Illinois doesn't do it. They passed these environmental laws that they can't use it, and then when the energy companies asked to get revenue so that they could increase the infrastructure, the Illinois legislature said, sure, we'll just charge people more money to use power. And that's how we got to that point right there. Now, let's talk about the Chicago Bears and what happened. So, it's official. And I know some people said that there was still a chance that the Bears would stay in Arlington Heights. And actually, I wanted to get to this. All right. The Chicago Bears are officially abandoned plans for an Illinois stadium, opting to shift focus to Hammond, Indiana. Now, keep in mind something that the city of Hammond offered to cost share with the Chicago Bears to pay for that strategy. And we couldn't do that in Illinois. All right. So the two parties involved, in case you didn't know, was Arlington Heights and the city of Chicago. So those were the two municipalities that in the past partnered with the Chicago Bears. So that means that the mayors of both of those cities would have had to agree. But here's what happened. So the Bears finalized a $197 million purchase of the 326-acre former Arlington International Racecourse property in 2023. So they were actually moving forward. The village was supposed to be responsible for negotiating a long-term property tax certainty. The team sought to freeze or heavily reduce the massive commercial property tax assessments on the land to make a privately funded $5 billion dome stadium and entertainment district financially viable. So Arlington Heights came out of the gates and said, well, okay, on the purchase of the land, you're going to pay a lot in property taxes. So that was the first hurdle. Negotiations hit an impasse after Cook County assessors valued the property significantly higher than expected. Ultimately, a mega projects bill died in the Illinois General Assembly that would have allowed Arlington Heights to create its own sports stadium authority to completely waive property taxes in exchange for getting the stadium. Now, can't really blame the mayor. Whoever the assessors were in Cook County, they are the people that probably should have been scrutinized to why they let this happen. Now, there was also downtown Chicago. After suburban talk slowed, because Arlington Heights is in the suburbs. All right. The Bears proposed a $4.7 billion dome stadium project immediately south of their current home at Soldier Field on Lake Michigan shore. That would have been nice. Because the lakefront is public land, the city government and the Chicago Park District would have been responsible for approving land use, owning the facility, and financing over $1 billion in public infrastructure. Now, why did it stall? City and state leaders heavily resisted the massive taxpayer burden required for infrastructure. Strong pushback from environmental and community groups like Friends of the Parks, who legally protect the lakefront from private development, further blocked the city's ability to help. Now, a couple of people there, and they didn't see that the benefits would have outweighed what they were talking about. And as a result, they are going to lose billions of dollars of revenue and jobs because the Chicago Bears are going to be in Hammond, Indiana. And high taxes, lack of public funding, and legislative deadlines. The Bears opted, and I think any corporation would have done the same thing. There is a pattern here that keeps coming up in the cities that the Democrats run. They seem to want businesses to pay more in taxes, but yet they don't want to give them incentives to stay in their city. Look at Oakland, California. And I'm going to do a program about them because they are probably don't generate any revenue unless it's from people working in the city. See, St. Louis City tried that too, to just tax people working in the city. Well, the Supreme Court of Missouri said that they could not do that. So it does matter who's in charge. So as far as the stadium goes, it's going to keep the name Chicago Bears. But other than that, the city just lost billions of dollars of revenue to be in the future. And also want you to look at in Chicago and Arlington Heights what they spend money on currently. So without taking a side on that, look and see what they actually spend money on. And do they invest in their city? O'Fallon, Illinois does with the sports arenas for baseball and softball. They generate revenue. Okay, so I don't want to run over my time. So I will end on that and the fact that we need to look at what our elected officials are spending money on and what their priorities are. That's why I always say, keep informed. You don't have to watch the news every day, but we really got to pay attention because it does affect you. It seriously affects you. In Chicago and Arlington Heights, they're going to lose hotels. They've lost the property taxes, all of that stuff. And so maybe when they run for office again, they need to be scrutinized. And also people on that city council too, because if you look at places like Chicago and St. Louis City, their priorities are providing full services to people, which is a good idea, but maybe lessen the amount that the city is doing and have people able-bodied work. And also think about how when you lose the tax revenue, what happens? So are you investing in the people? Investing in companies, and you can also invest in the people later because then you have the revenue. So this is Just Listen, hosted by George Goodman. Have a great weekend. And if you get a chance, go out to the website of your preferred candidate. I would say look at the other sides too and look at their policies. Have a good weekend, and we will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.